Mav's Coffee Clarity with Denise is brought to you in partnership with Drive Media and Consulting and their premier sponsors. Subscribe on your favorite streaming platforms and share. If you just found us, welcome. And if you're a regular, welcome back. Denise DiGrigoli has spent her life in the creative industries as an entrepreneur, helping people transform their visions into thriving businesses, working with individuals and teams to find their purpose and live their life vibrantly. On her pod, Denise delivers business intel and life hacks with wit and wisdom in short shots like a strong espresso with a solid sense of humor. Enjoy this episode of Mav's Coffee Clarity, and here's Mav.
Well, hello, my friends. It's Mav on a short shot, and today I want to talk about the art of reinvention. So many of my clients and businesses are going through some type of evolution or reinvention. And for our folks just starting out for the first time, let's call it invention. There's a lot of stuff that happens that I see with people around reinvention. It's almost like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm reinventing. What's that going to look like? How's that going to feel? And in some weird way, it almost sounds like a punishment sometimes. I say, it's not a punishment at all. I think the fear of unknown can be somewhat riveting at times, right? But for me, when I hear my clients or my friends or even myself going through a reinvention, the first thing I think is take an assessment of your skills. What really brings you joy, even micro joys? Where are you really successful? Like, we all have parts of our job and our careers maybe that we don't like. For me, it's bookkeeping. I actually don't like bookkeeping at all. But hey, it's a necessary evil. I know the things that I strive at. I think the situation with those of us that have had lengthy careers might have certain triggers. One of mine is jack of all trades, master of none. So I really started to dig into this because I'm not going to make a specialist more important than a generalist. Generalists connect the dots across many skill sets, maybe many industries. Specialists, like an orthopedic surgeon that fixed my Achilles heel or tendon, is really important too. So, on Mav's Coffee Clarity, we have no shoulds, right? We don't talk about any shoulds, but I want to say this. When you're thinking about labeling someone, maybe take an assessment of yourself first, right? Often what we teach, we need to learn the most. And so jack of all trades, master of none has been my trigger since I graduated college. And I had an interview with a really well-known fashion brand. We're not going to say the brand. And it was for some entry-level position. And the recruiter said, well, you're just the jack of all trades, master of none. And that really kind of hit home. It bothered me. And what she was really saying is, geez, you went to college nearly on a full scholarship and you practically worked full time to put yourself through school, which I'm not bothering to recognize because I don't know the backstory. And you've had many jobs, including, some what could be perceived as mundane service jobs like waitressing to make ends meet, or working with Karl Lagerfeld over at Biederman Industries. If that made me the jack of all trades, master of none, I didn't embrace it then, but I do now, because those experiences with the public, meeting different people, showing up in different ways, having to be spontaneous, like the upcoming workshop I'm teaching, the Art of Improv, right? Speaking on your feet is a skill set that maybe I developed by accident. Maybe it was going to come along anyways, but it's a skill set nonetheless. So when my clients get really undone that they're not a specialist or they're the jack of all trades and they don't know what to do with all those skills, they say, let's pause for a second. Let's take a look at our inventory. What really makes you click? What makes you happy if you're going to reinvent? And what does reinvention look like? Sometimes it's a parent reentering the workforce. Sometimes it's a shift in jobs after a loss of a loved one. Sometimes you're selling your business and moving on to some new business. Or maybe you're planning some other future charitable events in your life and you're not going to work for a while. I don't know. Reinvention wears so many hats and so many shoes. But the art of reinvention really is an art, because art is personal. And the art of anything is also personal. I don't think there's any one size fits all. Some people say, well, you don't fit in that box. Okay, no, you don't. You know why? Because boxes are for storage, and storage is meant to move forward one day. So I always say to my clients, I got to make a little fun of it. We get too hard on ourselves about the art of reinvention. First thing, take a look at all your skill sets. And if you haven't I'll be facetious here, if you haven't learned to use your computer and you're still typing on a typewriter, hey, you might want to update that skill set. But in general, look at your skill sets, look at what makes you happy and those skills that you really enjoy using, and then decide for yourself, where do I want to use those? Or do I want to scrap it all and go back to school? Like, do I want to be a farm-to-table organic pastry food chef? I don't know. But you have to take a little time, right, to kind of figure it out, as I did in some recent transitions I've been through, i.e. this podcast. Why? Because I felt like, I didn't have the time to be on stage full time. I didn't have the inclination to be working the midnight shifts at nightclubs being a comedian. And I still really loved my public speaking, my strategic communication, and working with people to help them speak and feel comfortable on stage, last minute board meetings, RFP negotiations, or just simply having those hard conversations with family, loved ones that, you need to have in order for everybody to move forward. Or just self-expression. Maybe you really want to tell a great story on stage. Maybe you want to be on the moth. Maybe you want to be a comedian. Maybe you just need a little bit of somebody else to help you along. So I had to say, well, okay, out of all that, can I achieve any of that on my podcast? That way, for me, I thought, well, I get to use some of my skills. The content lives evergreen. You can go to Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever we're placing this content, and you can listen to it at any time. So I don't need to be there, although I love to be there, and I love to do public speaking and emceeing. But I thought part of my skill set is helping other people move forward. I've had a really vast career, and when I feel people stuck, I really feel like, no, you don't have to be stuck. You don't have to be stuck. So you're going to take an assessment of where you're at. And then maybe you're going to look at other people's careers, look at other people's roles, positions, companies, and see what excites you about that. Listen or read documentaries of people that you feel are really successful. Get inspired. And then recently, I don't know if you listened to Lawrence Queso from The Klein. He is so understated and really such a bigwig, my friends. And he was talking about his first job out of college, where he wrote to 3 of the ABC networks. He learned about the job he wanted in advance. And then he wrote, this is going back in the day, but he wrote a 40-page assessment and analysis of, as if he was going to step in the role, how he could benefit that role. He got 3 callbacks from the network executives, and guess what? He became a pioneer in TV at CBS. Now, is it changed now? Are we writing 40-page dissertations to people? And are they reading our mail, our snail mail? Are they even reading our email? We don't know. So there's a curation to reinvention, right? And it starts mindfully with you. Nobody can tell you to be a specialist like an orthopedic surgeon or a data analysis expert in the field of Bitcoin. I don't know. No one can tell you to be a generalist and say, use all of these skills to be this. You have to know yourself a little bit better and be okay with the fact that reinvention it isn't something to be downtrodden about or view it as like, I hear people like, oh, I'm reinventing myself. It's just terrible. I don't know. It's so much work. It really isn't. I think it's like a great creative process. And if you plan for it and allow the evolution, me personally, I like everything to happen pretty quickly if I can make it happen quickly. So I want to know what it's going to be tomorrow. And I want to jump in. And when I'm in, I'm all in. And that's okay too. Remember, not everybody is going to do it like you. That's why generalists are needed, because they connect the dots with all of their skill sets and whatever that they're doing. I'll say, yes, most entrepreneurs are generalists. We need to be creative thinkers, innovators. We need to be able to pivot, punt, and be resourceful, from doing bookkeeping to, content creation, to meeting with clients, to keeping the pipeline filled, to keeping the employees happy, to understanding the current laws in your state about how to operate a business and hire people and pay payroll taxes. So yeah, you know what? When you're an entrepreneur, you kind of wear a lot of hats, right? And then for me, one of the key things I like to do is help people expand and grow, whether it's in their professional speaking or their business development or their PR or their events. I bring, not to put an age on it, but I bring like 30 years of experience. And thankfully, I love most of those years of experiences, minus the bookkeeping, that I feel like I can help people. So if I can help someone, I'm going to be the person to help you. So the art of reinvention for me has been challenging because, in a good way, challenging, because I really have so many little baskets, or think of so many doors in a house, but it's the same house, or so many ways to run the race, one engine. And so I feel like the art of reinvention, when I'm helping my clients, whether they're successing their businesses or they're buying a new business or they're changing careers, I think the art of reinvention really starts with self-reflection and really looking at what makes you tick and what makes you happy. Now, conversely, I was working with a couple of young students that just graduated college. Your first job out of college, you're just kind of getting your feet wet. And you use your experience based on maybe your extracurricular activities, where you thrived in your studies, what somebody told you should do. And that first job may be the one you're stuck with for the rest of your life, but probably not. So that's a little form of reinvention, because you've learned something. And when you've learned something, you kind of take that fork in the road. So if you take the left and you get down the road and you need to make the right, hey, make the right. The only thing I would say for those of us in those positions is, if I would probably never quit a job without having a reliable source of income. That's just the way I was raised, the way I think. And, any good financial planner will tell you to have 6 months to a year of savings. So if things don't work out in your reinvention, you have a little padding, because you can't think clearly when you're stressed out of your mind because finances are looming and the rent or the mortgage is due. So the art of reinvention, my friends, we're going to be talking a lot more about that. I think I'm going to do a few segments and have some other friends on that have been experts in this field or have pioneered through such growth, because it can be scary. I want to tell you, it doesn't have to be scary. It can be great. It can be a creative process that allows you to meet other people and hear their stories of tenacity, resiliency, what worked for them, what didn't. And you'll find those kind of guests, of course, on Mav's Coffee Clarity. We look for those maverick minds that have, transitioned or, met that juxtaposition with grit and grace, and then can share their silver linings. I'm a firm believer that no growth happens without a little friction. Friction creates growth. And, sometimes friction is not always unicorn and butterflies. It can be a little painful. I think that's why it's really important to start with your inner dialogue, your inner communication, your inner reflection, and the words that you choose. Words that we choose to ourselves and to others are really important. That's why we call it spelling words, right? It's sort of casting spells. If you say, that sucks or this sucks or I should, then you know what that trajectory looks like. And if you say, I'm going to investigate, I'm going to be open. Why do you feel that way? How does it make you feel? When you use those kind of pivots, you might open the doors. And when you open the doors and you have more exposure, for me personally, more exposure means more success, more creativity, trying of new things, being open to chance opportunities. That's kind of being aware of your intuition and being aware of your surroundings. So reinvention is all of that. And you've, of course, heard the chance stories where, I was thinking I was going to do this, and I was en route to do that, when all of a sudden this dropped in my lap. Well, if I'm a specialist, maybe I can't do that. If I'm a generalist, maybe I can use transferable skills to fit in there. And why I say that to you is that was the self-dialogue I had to have. listen, Denise, you are wanting to do this. You've been doing this. Where can we transform some of these fabulous skills you've learned about being on stage and with other people that write maybe for marketing, write novels, write comedy, write for short stories for the Moth, or have a curated produced show like Mav's Coffee Clarity? Is there a place for these skills for you? And you know what? The answer is yes, my friends. Is it always easy? No. With anything that you invest your time in, especially a reinvention or a pivot, you have to be willing to invest the time. And, transparency here, I like things to move fast. I've been in an entrepreneurial environment practically since I was 9, more or less. Yes, I've had some corporate careers, but what I've always done is try to make things happen. And sometimes in reinvention, you have to be okay with allowing, inviting, releasing what doesn't serve you. And the one thing I would say in the next few Art of Reinventions we're going to talk about is how to get there for you. So you design your own roadmap. You design the pathways that'll open those opportunities. So when you start to pivot in whatever your career or business or next venture might be, it feels more like that soft, buttery leather glove that's meant to be just for you, or that new pair of leather shoes that fits without stretching them out. So we had some great guests on. I don't know if you've seen Gary Nosner. He was a lead negotiator who taught empathy before force at the FBI for over 30 years. Some of his work is still used at the FBI in Guantanamo Bay. I think that's the place. And we had Donna Fenn, who was an Associated Press reporter in Saudi Arabia when ladies were not involved or really welcome to go there and do that. As an American, her husband was stationed over there. They advised her not to go, and she went. Has a stunning career, and then reinvented herself back in the Berkshires, owning Edible Berkshire Edibles, or Edible Berkshires, a magazine that's phenomenal. I'm saying the wrong name because I'm talking a little too fast, but you'll see her episode prior to this one. And recently, Lawrence Queso, who left, this star-studded CBS career. It was time for a reinvention, and he became the director at the Klein, now celebrating 85 years. When he got there was only 65 programs a year out of 365 days. And now there's 300 programs a year, if not more. So reinvention, my friend, takes on all kinds of shapes and sizes, and it is for you. Whether you are a new college grad, you are pivoting to a new college because you don't like what you chose, you're out of your first job and saying, what's for me next? Or you are 30 years down the pike and you're like, you know what? I need a glow up. You're going to glow up with Mav, my friends. Peace out. Mav's got to get back to work. Thank you so much. Please share this with somebody that needs to experience clarity and connection. And yes, of course, we appreciate your listens, your follows, your likes, and your shares, because that's how we get the community going, the community of navigators. I'm so thankful for you. Follow me, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and of course, Denise DiGrigoli.com for creative services. Again, peace out, my friends. I'll see you soon.